Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening. This is a presentation that I made for a conference on stigma and how to overcome stigma, how to best in psychiatry. So my presentation is on destigmatizing psychiatry itself, how to destigmatize psychiatry and rehabilitating psychiatry, because you destigmatize, you're going to rehabilitate this stigmatized subject of ours. In the developing economies, that is the low and medium income countries, by teaching alternatives. I'm Dr. Deva, I'm a professor of psychiatry, University of and two logos below, one is of the Asian Federation of Psychiatric Association, which I founded in 2005, and of University where I worked as a senior professor of psychiatry. Now, psychiatry is full of contradicting issues, but these are not addressed very often. People talk about it, and then it goes beyond that, and nobody follows it up, and the problems continue. Among the two stigma of elements in the room are that 40% of the world are low-income countries, maybe more like 60%. But only about 5,000 psychiatrists are there in one country with a population of 1.2 billion people, in a low-income country. But in another high-income country, there are 4,000 psychiatrists for 25 million people. The disparity is enormous, enormous. But and the thing that in the rich countries is the big problem, but the stigma in a poor country or low-income country, that's not important. Nobody talks about it. There are enormous problems. Over 70% of psychiatric problems are not in the psychiatric ward. We know that. The WHO in 2001 in the World Mental Health Report mentioned that we should strive to teach and practice psychiatry in the primary healthcare setting, not in mental hospitals, not in mental wards. Yet teaching all over the world, rich and poor countries, is still largely in the psychiatric wards and in mental hospitals, which in the low and medium income countries is run very, very bad. It's an age-old problem yet to be addressed adequately by the powers that be, ministers of health, psychiatric profession, and international mental health and psychiatric bodies. Conferences, webinars by the thousands, costing billions, sharing latest in science. For whom? It's all talking to themselves. They're not interested in improving in any significant way the quality of psychiatric care in medium income countries. Post-meeting lethargy, and it has not really affected the low and medium income countries. I will show you some shocking pictures, but please remember that this can be changed. It's possible to change it. And I'll show you some examples of how it has been changed, at least in a few countries, at very low cost. Money is not the only issue. Money is an issue, but it's not a very big issue. So these meetings that many of us attended, conferences, congresses, lots of talk, meetings, post-meeting lethargy, till the next elections, next lobbying, and the next conference. Any ways to push low and medium income countries' psychiatry out of the status quo. A lot of slogans have been quoted now and again. Mental illness are like any other illness. Really? You really believe that? You really believe it like any other illness? Why is that this doesn't look like a general hospital ward to me? Does it look like a ward for medicine, surgery, orthopedic, ENT, or eye? Why is it? No wonder stigma thrives. We're talking about stigma. It thrives because most of the time, the leaders in psychiatry and the forces in psychiatry are telling, do what destigmatize psychiatry, outrun the stigma, run 5 kilometers, run 15 kilometers. But we practice in this worse than prison place. There's a different size credibility gap. Stigma, as many people know, and it's many times mentioned in this conference I'm attending, is as old as the hills, whether it is due to color, race, deformities, religious practices, behavior, political affiliation, violence, disease, the list endless. Any reason can be found to stigmatize. Oh, he's different color. Oh, he's different language. Oh, he's a different kind of food. God, is he eating meat? Oh, he's not a vegetarian. My God, the list is endless. But the light at the end of this endless tunnel is, how did leprosy, deformity, causing diseases and death, lose its stigma? It is by and large lost its stigma. And I shall give you some examples. This was the world's second largest leprosy asylum in Sungai Buloh in Malaysia. Anybody who works in Malaysia or no, is a doctor in Malaysia will know where Sungai Buloh is. It is known today, not for this. This was a leprosy asylum with 100 completely guarded. Nobody's allowed in, nobody's allowed out. Nobody is allowed out because they spread leprosy. Nobody is allowed in because they will go see horrible examples of deformity that leprosy caused. It was a disease that was known since biblical times and before. The lepra bacillus was not treated until the century, when newer drugs like dapsone and many others came into being. But medicines alone cannot cause stigma. They must be applied, they must be given, they must be taken, they must be spread throughout the country. Stigma, synonymous with leprosy for thousands of years. This left the hospital 30 years ago, not because of campaigns and sloganeering. Leprosy like any nonsense. We know it's not. Why are we trying to hoodwink the public? But because of science, as the discovery of the medicines, how it is spread, how the disease is spread, successful treatments for everybody to see. The stigma followed the discrimination, followed the disease. But once we found treatment and followed it up with extensive public health services, political and professional commitments, and deeds, not empty words, this center is signboard. National Control Center, Sungai Buloh, about 30 years. And what has happened to the picture on the left the leprosy hospital about 15 to 20 years ago. It's now an infectious disease hospital, temporarily for the COVID. But before that, it's a general hospital. It's what you about 5 or 6 paperless hospitals. These are hospitals where no paper is used, except laptops and palm tops. and uh, all the notes are taken down on computer. All this X-ray, all the lab results, everything is on computer. It costs about 300 or 400 million US dollars. In a medium income country like Malaysia, that's a lot of money. That is still there, opposite the leprosy hospital, which is closed down. And the patients have set up the recovering patient. This patient actually had lost some fingers. I don't want to show you his face, but he has lost some fingers. He was a leprosy patient. He was a garden shop, one of dozens of them. And they export flowers, turfing, decorated plants to all over Malaysia and other countries. The leprosy patients have become, and the town of Sungai Buloh is now forgotten as a center for leprosy that everybody avoided. It's an empty leprosy town. Labor from neighboring countries to work orchid and other flowering plants and decorative plants. You can see landscape shops, turfing for new housing areas, and every weekend the place is jammed with cars, people coming to buy the plants, flowers from the leprosy patients. The leprosy of stigma of leprosy has all but disappeared. But comes in modern 300 million US dollar paperless hospital. Stigmatizing mental illness. And that's the modern hospital. If you go inside, I guarantee you, you'll wonder whether you're in a hotel or a hospital. It's so modern. I took my students there, showed them this. They didn't know next door was a former leprosy hospital. So I took them there and showed them, wait, this is the stigma that had disappeared in leprosy, but not for psychiatry. There is no psychiatric ward in this hospital. There's an outpatient clinic started by a psychiatrist who didn't know what else he could do. So he started an outpatient clinic. And after working there for 8 or 10 years, they gave him a few beds in the medical ward. That's the stigma of mental illness in the profession. In the modern medical profession, built with no psychiatric ward. Steps to destigmatization. First of all, you've got to discover new and effective treatments. Point telling like any other illness. Nothing succeeds like proof of success. Telling people like any other illness. We are challenging their intelligence. We, the psychiatrists, we, the medical doctors, we, the administrators in healthcare, we are challenging them. Saying like any other, I used to know that the psychiatric wards look like prisons and worse. We have the medicines. Denica discovered the medicine in France in the 1950s, early 50s. And it spread to Malaysia just 2 years later. Medicines are available. And many medicines have come. Antipsychotic to all in use. Some of them are quite expensive, but the drugs that are under the essential medicine list of WHO are quite. We have the medicine, but need ways to control the illness that are weak. Non-existent in many of understanding, social, occupational, relapse prevention, and to many developing countries in the Asia. Only one psychiatric facility in the capital city. The rest of the country is devoid of any kind of psychiatric facility. But psychiatric illness everywhere. In the Pacific countries, there are 300 or 400 islands separated by millions of square kilometers of sea. and transferring patients to the main capital can take as much as 2 or 3 days, and the patient is handcuffed. The medicine is available, but the doctors don't want to use it. They don't know how to use it. This background to the medication use to overcome illness, like social work, psychology, rehabilitation, are still practically non-existent in many low-income countries. Attitudes of staff and this in the profession and the administrators in the health profession from non-medication background, non-rehabilitation need to change the mindsets. Show examples of good practice. Stigma can be eradicated if the whole gap of medication, services, attitudes, and the paraphernalia of the treatment process, like social work, psychology, counseling, rehabilitation, occupational therapy, are put in place. You would be surprised to hear this. In a country like Vietnam, they fought for and defeated the enemy. They have no occupational therapists. No occupational therapists. Many times. Indonesia, population 260 million, did not have an occupational therapist till the 1980s. What are you talking about stigma? The role of an occupational rehabilitation of mental illness is paramount. Anybody who deals with psychiatry and rehabilitation knows that. The World Association for Psychosocial Rehabilitation has pushed very hard to provide rehabilitation services. So why are these not being done just like we did for leprosy and managed to get rid of leprosy? Because they are blocking factors. Everybody has come to the conclusion, for whatever reason, that the cure for mental illnesses is the latest still use of overdose of psychopharmacological based silver bullet that's going to cure everything. This is not true. Medicines are crucial, but the support services are equally crucial. There are countries we do not have a single social worker for the mentally ill and their problems and their rehabilitation and their treatments. So by having will cure everything? No, we cannot. But more crucial than to all this is every day, every week, every month, every year, students are coming on stream in medicine, nursing, healthcare professions, occupational therapy, and they see in the developing countries this kind of true pictures from countries. One in when young minds come there, psychiatry is lock up, bars. One is behind a bar. One of them is an institute of psychiatry. How could you have an institute? Graduates, undergraduates, kind of abuse psychiatry, the paradigm, what we are used to from pre-promising to detection and treatment in the community. What I did that in my country about more than 10 years ago, but we did not have a separate building. We don't have. It's difficult to get money. When it comes to $10,000, it's like end of the world. This is actually less than $3,000. So finally, with donors, we managed to open it. All psychiatric patients are seen here. The severe psychotic patients, of course, they cannot be seen here because so they're in another unit. The 80% of stress-related problems, which is the large number of psychiatric patients and the psychosis, measure. In the primary healthcare center, not in a psychiatric, not in a hospital, not in a psychiatric hospital. It's seen in the primary care center. I go to a developing country and I see medical students walking past this mental hospital. The only difference is nowadays they've decorated beautifully with art and paintings. They spend a lot of money, a lot of effort, a lot of false hope. Painting change. Inside, this is what goes on. There are students from schools coming to visit mental hospital to see how crazy people are behaving. Why? Oh, why? The basic problem is people do not want to change. Even despite all the evidence showing that we need to change, they don't want to change. Local passion for psychiatry and change is often weak. No. I don't want to rock the boat. My boss will get upset. The Ministry of Health will be very upset because this has been going on. My seniors have been doing this. Let me continue. Now and then some people say, no, we need to change. Offers of help from afar often mismatch. What's good for me must be good for you. Some of these places I've shown you and more were visited by people from high-income countries quite regularly as consultants. Did they impart the knowledge that could change the stigma, change the method of treatment, change the method of buildings that are built to house the mentally ill? No, they didn't. I've been to those countries. I names who realize poor progress and are clever among the people of the low-income country leave. Go to the developed countries. Look, no point because nothing will change. The government will not change. People will not change. Blame the stigma and disappear. They migrate. Some return to give back to the motherland. And there are also examples. And once a person and his wife, Dr. Naveen and his wife, came back to his hometown. And with the help of his friends, relatives, and the local university, and some help from me, started a rural psychiatry service in India in 2013. Support from Nita University in South India. Rural psychiatric service did not exist then. He created a rural psychiatric service. It has training of trainees, psychiatrists, provided much needed service where patients were chained for being mentally ill. Here's a man who did not talk and said, like any other illness, you must use 3 fingers appointment back at home. So he did the changing. Just talk. Changing institutional mental hospitals in LAMICs, a Malaysian experience. Show examples of change in other LAMICs. Show them, look, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Other countries can do it. Why can't you? Malaysia was very backward in psychiatry when it became independent in 1970. But my example shown to 7 staff in 20-year-old hospital. The staff are quite younger. I say, no, it won't work here. On site regularly, if possible. So I used to go there to teach my postgraduates, or even online nowadays regularly. 10% move and changes move the rest. Luckily, the lead the 10%. You need a brave person to make a change where everybody says no. Important if change maker is credible with a track record, a should consultant who's not keen to get his hands wet. Practice actions speak louder than book-based theory. Way back in 1977, I took my postgraduates. That's me. I don't know whether you recognize me. It's different. I'm sorry that my picture is not in this video because of some technical problems. Large hospital, 3 deaths. He gave us patients. I don't care. I work in a university hospital. I went there to take my postgraduates. We changed the wards, which were very, very bare, without any decorations, no privacy, no lockers, no comb, no shoes, nothing. I'm involved in various activities, occupational therapy, and showed them pictures of what happened in Thailand. This is what they did. They changed this hospital, this ward, into this. They grew. When they grew, patients will hang themselves. We cannot grow trees here. This is a mental hospital. You know? We get blamed for this. Why can't you go forward? Oh, patients will eat up the food. After I left, they planted. They planted bougainvillea of thorns. Nobody can contract from factories. Psychiatric patients did and earn money for them. Been to other countries in the Asia Pacific region to work for NGOs as well as for, and it was turning from a planned economy or socialist economy to a capitalist economy. All habits die hard, and change is usually a threat. Be aware of that. All planned economy turning into a modern economy. Think out of the box to bring change. Money was scarce. It's a country. Socialist resource. Psychiatrists there we have time about 8 psychiatrists. I don't know whether in Africa, in Mozambique, we also have the same thing. A lot of doctors in the social country. First, tented houses, which are normal houses in most parts of, in fact, parts of and institutions to de-institution $10,000 for 10 girls to start the rehabilitation project. Money is not that easy to get. It worked for the WHO. I put in a request for $10,000. They turned it down. I said, why do you want $10,000? That we cannot rehabilitate our patients. Patients are stuck up in a mental hospital. Their death 15% a year. How can you allow that? They need better, They said, no. WHO doesn't give money for house. So I tried hard. I went to see some other staff, and they told me, why do you want this? I said, people are dying. So they said, oh, really? This is what is going on in Mongolia. Well, I'm appeal and send a re-application. They submitted they gave us the money. This is a mental institution. Sorry, this is a mental institution. It's in winter. Goats